Hello and welcome to The Radical. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole. On our podcast, we delve into the roots of metaphysical wisdom.
That's right, Nicole. Our podcast is all about exploring those fundamental truths and practices that nourish your mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, Christina, we want to make metaphysical concepts easy to understand and accessible, especially for those who don't have a ton of time to do all the research.
Right? We'll do the research as well as share our experiences and perspectives, hoping to empower you, our listener, to find balance and magic in your day-to-day.
Inspired by the essence of the word radical, proceeding from the root, let's explore the roots of well-being and self-healing together.
This is The Radical with Christina and Nicole, two metaphysical girls in the material world. Hello, listeners. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Radical Podcast. I'm Christina.
And I'm Nicole.
Today we're talking about the phases of the moon. This was something I suggested we do a podcast on, I don't even know, maybe a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago. And when we were working on the birth charts and the planets, and we did the sun and the moon. And I'm like, I want to talk about just the phases. I found out so much good information. I cannot wait to surprise you, Nicole, with some of the stuff I found out.
I'm excited. When we did our moon podcast, kind of like the moon overall, I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. And I learned even more doing this one. I'm excited to go through some facts in the segment one. And then Nicole and I are going to blend together our phases of the moon.
And then I have some information on moon cycles and periods and how syncing up with a particular phase has a certain meaning. And then towards the end, the moon phases and zodiac pairings and how we can use that information in a given month.
Fun. Oh, that's good stuff. And then I have the message from the universe. I'm using the Secrets of the Witch's Garden tarot card deck by Sasha Graham. And we are just going to start digging right in to this fascinating topic of the moon phases, the phases of the moon. I want to start out with, why do we see phases of the moon? And there's three basic reasons: the direction of the sun, the orbit of the earth and moon, and the angle at which we're looking at the moon. Generally, those are the three. And I'm going to break each one of these down a little bit more. So the direction of the sun, because the moon is a sphere in space, half of it is always illuminated by the sun. It just depends on where we are on the physical earth, whether or not we can see it and what we can see. At the new moon, the moon is closest to the sun and not visible because the illuminated side is facing away from us. And because it's the closest to the sun, it rises and sets around the same time as the sun. So it's extra not visible during that time. As the moon orbits the earth, it's moving east, away from the sun, and its rising and setting times gets further from the sun. Then we have more opportunities to see it, because when the moon is very close to the sun, it's very hard to see. I feel like I knew that, but I really didn't understand it until I saw some amazing videos by some amazing astronomers and astronomer lovers on YouTube. The moon is closest to the sun. And that means that we'll fast forward real quickly to the full moon. That's when the moon is 180 degrees away from the sun. and it's the furthest away, and the rising and the setting times stagger more. There's more space between them. That's why I feel like in my um experience, I see the full moon more than I see a lot of the phases of the moon. And remember from the eclipses episode, we can only have solar eclipses during the new moon and lunar eclipses during the full moon. Okay, so that is direction of the sun. The second reason why we see moon phases is the orbit of the Earth and the moon. Now, the moon does rotate. One full rotation of the moon on its own axis is equal to one full orbit around the Earth. If it didn't rotate, we would see the other side of the moon. It's because the Earth is a sphere and the moon is the sphere that it is actually rotating while it's moving around us. That's why the same side faces us. If it didn't, we would see the other side of the moon when it was on the side and when it was either in front or in back of the Earth. There's videos on this on YouTube. Trust me, listeners, trust me, Nicole, go watch them. There's people who've put together beautiful videos showing this, but it's because it's one in one. It's so perfect. It's like the universe had a plan.
Yeah, that's one of those I need like a visual aid.
I'm like, so listeners, you can't see this, but I'm like using my hands to show her how it rotates when it goes around. But if you had a light bulb, like if you had a lamp and you took the shade off, so that would be the sun, put yourself in a completely dark room and then hold like a white ball on the end of a stick, and then you just circle around it and your head is the Earth, and you could see that it would have to rotate. You could see the moon phases. You could easily find all of this and find graphics and find videos on the phases of the moon and the rotation. It was wonderful. Now, have you ever seen images of the other side of the moon?
I don't think so.
Do you know what it looks like? I saw them. The other side of the moon is mostly smooth. It doesn't have the deep craters that are on the side that's facing us. It would be so much brighter. It is more reflective on the dark side of the moon. There's one moon small black dot on the other side that would be very prominent, but most of it would be very light colored, or very reflective rather. So it's interesting about that, the orbit of the Earth and the moon. And then the final reason why we see the phases of the moon is the angle at which we are looking at the moon. In the northern hemisphere, the moon moves to the east, and the illuminated part of the moon is first visible after the new moon is the right side. In the southern hemisphere, it would be the left side, because you're looking at it from the other direction, like upside down. Now wrap your mind around that. Let us wrap our minds around that for a moment. And I've been lucky enough to travel to Australia and New Zealand, but I got to tell you, I was not paying attention to the moon when I was there. And so now, Nicole, we need to do a fact-finding mission to this southern hemisphere to do a podcast on the moon phases.
Yeah. I can't even. My brain's like, we cannot compute that information right now. Like, that's wild.
Isn't that amazing? I have this on the bottom of my notes, but I'm going to say it now. Thank you, Launchpad Astronomy and Crash Course Astronomy YouTube channels. I watch their videos. I listen to them. Amazing. Well explained, fantastically resourced, good stuff. Good stuff. If any of that has blown your mind, go look at those too. I wanted to say something else about, you know how when you look at the moon and there's the illuminated part, but you can kind of see some of the shadow part?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to know why that is?
Why?
Earth shine. The Earth is very reflective. The Earth is more reflective than the moon. So we can see a little bit of the rest of the moon because light is reflecting off the earth to the moon.
Is that because of our water?
Must be. I feel like the earth is like it's kind of glowy. It's got to be because of the blue, right? It's I mean, if especially if it's the Pacific side, just imagine all the
Mm-hmm.
light that's bouncing off of that. A note on how long the lunar cycle is or how long the moon orbits the earth. And we've talked about this in the zodiac and in our astrology, the sidereal, and that is figuring the movement of the zodiac signs and the movement of the sun and the moon when you use a fixed point in the stars, and that would be 27.3 days. That's the time for the moon to complete one orbit around the earth relative to the stars. But we know that the earth rotates, but it also wobbles a little bit. So from full moon to full moon, with the stars fixed, the moon doesn't come back to the same spot. It's a little bit short. So that's why we have the synodic month. And that is the 29.53, 29.53 something something days. And that's full moon to full moon or new moon to new moon with the moon returning back to the same spot. And synodic means pertaining to a synod or a meeting. And in this case, that's the sun and the moon meeting back in the same spot. That's where synodic comes from. But that's where the 29.5 days comes from. And you could see, other calendars. Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on the Gregorian calendar and its predecessors, which is a patriarchal system put into place in order to order time, took away the flow and the extra days and the uncertainty of the lunar cycle and made it predictable and easy, even for like the religious holidays. And then it became industrialization, and then it became, international trade, and it became all these other things. And it was not in a way to honor the actual flow of this natural timekeeper that the universe has given us, the moon and the stars, but to make it easy for people to order time. But there are some cultures that have had lunar calendars. There's other calendars being used out in the world. If you're interested in that, oh my gosh, I didn't go down that rabbit hole here, but I did want to make a note about why if we have this perfect timekeeping device, why do we have this calendar with 29, 30, and 31 days in it? You know what? Because of the patriarchy. That's why. I'm ready for phases. Are you ready for phases?
I am.
We're going to start with the new moon, which I think is generally in a lot of the things I saw where people would say that the moon cycle begins. And as I said, the new moon is right next to the sun. They are in their meeting place. I mean, they know it's there, but you can't see it. I saw videos where they're like, the moon is here. They just put a circle in the dark sky. We can't see it. That is the beginning of the moon phase, the new moon.
The 0 degree point.
Yes.
The new moon is at 0 degrees in terms of its relationship with the sun, but the new moon phase is 0 degrees to 45 degrees. And this phase has the energy of newness, beginnings, a fresh start, a blank canvas. In pagan belief systems, the triple goddess is represented in some of our moon phases, and at the new moon, it's the maiden.
Mm.
And you can use a metaphor. This sort of helps me think about the energy of the phase of the moon, but the metaphor of planting seeds and a plant growing. So at the new moon, you're planting seeds of intention, if you want to think about it that way. And sort of the best activities or practices or rituals, or the most supported rituals, would be activating the laws of assumption and attraction by creating your affirmations for the month and doing visualization practices. So you could do a meditation where you are visualizing your affirmations. You are embodying the energy of the person who has accomplished your goal or succeeded at what you're working on. You could make a vision board and have literal images cut out on a physical board or, piece of paper, however you want to do it, and that's your tangible seed for the month.
Moving on to waxing crescent. I think that the crescent moon is my favorite shape of moon. To me, it's like so magical and mystical, and just that's the symbol of the moon, is that crescent. Oh, I love it when I can catch either the waxing or the waning crescent moon. I love it. Waxing means growing. The word waxing comes from Old English, waxen or waxen, which means to grow or to increase. And as we said, the moon is moving to the east. So the right side of the moon is becoming illuminated. The right side has less dark areas. If you look at an actual, really good high quality picture of the moon, and those dark areas are called mares. And it's the word mare, plural is Maria. It's the moon's dark places, comes from the Latin word meaning sea, which in a lot of the other romantic languages, mar is related to the sea. Early astronomers looked at the dark areas on the moon as regions of seas or oceans or lakes on the moon, which is so. That's where the Sea of Tranquility and they all have different names. It's now known that the Maria are actually vast plains that were formed by the old lava flows, ancient lava flows that filled in the big impact craters that were on the moon from its formative
Mm.
beginning. And those results in that flat, dark regions where we see to get today that aren't as reflective. We have kind of what the moon looks like, and then that it's moving. The illuminated is the right side. To remember this, I remembered it wax on and wax off. I'm right-handed, so my wax on is my right hand. Do you remember that from
Mm.
the movie?
Okay. Yeah.
That's not even necessary to kind of go to that memorization. Is like wax on is the right side, because the right side is also the right side of the body, is also the yang side. It's also the projective, expansive side. As the moon is waxing, it is moving from, the dark moon into the lit moon. It looks like it's growing. So you can also remember it that way, being the right side as being illuminated, because that is the yang side.
That is extremely helpful.
It is a quick way to remember if you're out and about and you're kind of in your head and you're not really aware of what the moon is, what phase we're in, and you look up. That might be an easy way for you to kind of be like, oh, what side is illuminated, where are we? Quick, easy way to remember.
Yeah, I like that. The waxing crescent phase is the 45-degree point through 90 degrees in terms of the moon and its relationship to the sun. As the moon circles the earth, the light being reflected by the moon is increasing. So, like Christina said, this is a yang time. And our plant metaphor, the seed is efforting to take root. So, effort, yang energy. In our life, this may feel like overcoming challenges and difficulty in regards to our seeds that we planted, our intentions, and best practices, consistency, repetition, and doubling down on your efforts. This made me think of our affirmation challenge when I experienced in the first week or so some internal resistance, perhaps. And I had to almost force myself to stick to my new habit. So it's sort of like that when we're in this phase.
Moving into what's called the first quarter phase, which I have traditionally called, in my own personal tradition, the half moon phase, because I'm looking at a half moon. But here, look, I just learned this. Here's another light bulb moment I had. This is the first quarter. You can call it the waxing half moon if you like the half moon terminology. But what we're actually seeing is the right half of the illuminated half. You're actually physically seeing a quarter of the actual moon. That first quarter that I was kind of resistant to, now I'm like, oh, okay. Because I needed to understand, because the first quarter is also called that because the astronomers have broken down the moon's orbit around the Earth into 4 pieces, and that is the completion of the first piece. That's the first quarter. They've broken it into 4. And it just so happens that you're seeing an actual quarter of the moon during that phase. Maybe it does make sense in the grand scheme of things, but you could still call it a half moon. I will probably still call it half moon. Yeah, we can call it whatever we like, but that is the reason why it's called the first quarter.
Called it the half moon too.
I'm get, I'm probably gonna continue to call it, but I did make sure that I put waxing half moon and be
Yeah.
more aware of what energy of the half moon I'm looking at.
And now I know if it's the right side, it's the waxing half moon. Or first quarter phase, 90 degrees
Mm-hmm.
through 135 degrees. The seed is sprouting. A small plant has emerged, breaking through the soil. So we have to continue our efforts, continue our consistency. And by doing so, we get that evidence that something's happening. We start to see evidence of our effort. There's a sense of tangibility, of structure, and of realness. Like there's a life force now to our words and our affirmations and our thinking. And we just talked a great deal about the Chariot tarot card
Mm.
in the last episode, but I was sort of thinking about the energy of the Chariot and how that tarot card represents getting things ready for action and movement. It's sort of that like energy potential. Kinetic is energy in motion, and then potential energy is like how much energy something contains right before it goes into movement. So it's sort of like that.
Mm.
During this phase, we just want to continue speaking life into our budding dream.
I like that. The chariot and potential energy. I like that. We're moving into the waxing gibbous phase. Waxing, growing, gibbous, humpbacked, or swollen. The adjective gibbous has its origin in Latin noun gibbous, meaning hump, which was adopted into Middle English to describe rounded or convex things. And the moon does have kind of, because we know it's a sphere, we know it's round, but when it's in this stage, it doesn't look perfectly round, because where we had that nice straight line during the half moon, now it's turning back into sort of like a reverse crescent. So it looks convex. It looks like it is swollen, or it is bulging on one side. And it is one of my favorite phases. I was born under a waxing gibbous moon.
I remember that from our moon podcast. I looked back at our notes and I was like, I remember Christina is a waxing gibbous baby.
Mm-hmm.
So during this phase, we are between 135 degrees and 180 degrees. So the last phase as we are approaching the full moon at 180 degrees. So with that etymology of gibbous, you can think about the seed continuing to expand and grow into a plant. There's a sense of culmination and anticipatory energy, and we're beginning to reach the climax or the pinnacle of the yang energy in the moon cycle.
Mm. That brings us, listeners, to the full moon phase. Now, what shape do you see in the moon's Maria? Historically, culturally, around the world, people have seen different things in the shadows and the light in the moon. And it's called lunar pareidolia. It's a phenomenon where individuals perceive patterns in seemingly random shapes. And it plays a role in why we see certain things in the moon's light and dark. Okay, so when I was growing up, it was the man in the moon. We had a Halloween decoration that my parents never threw anything away unless it got completely destroyed. But it was like a Halloween decoration that came out every Halloween. And I really liked it because I had a black cat on it and it had a moon in the background. And it was like a round human face with the face like it was going, oh, with big eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can't unsee that. And every now and then I'll get a glimpse of that moon with the right shading, the right darkness or lightness in the sky. And that's exactly what I see. But what I am retraining my mind to see is I'm looking at the lunar rabbit now. That is from our East Asian traditions. It's a cultural association of a rabbit with the moon, and it's prevalent in China and Japan and other countries in that area. And the dark markings on the moon are a rabbit facing to the right, and its front feet are on a little table or little workbench making something. They say it's either pounding little mochi food or making an elixir of life.
Love
And
that.
yes, you can open source search this and you can find graphics and overlays of this image over the moon. You can kind of see where the rabbit ears, because I used to see the rabbit pointing to the left with the ears going the other way, but then you can see it with the rabbit facing the right with this little work table and the ears going the other way.
I have never been able to see the man in the moon.
Oh,
So I'm really curious about the rabbit.
it all comes down to because what we're looking through our atmosphere to the moon with all of the light surrounding us. There's so many different reasons why we would see different darkness and lightness on the moon's surface. You could be right next to your house with too much light and you can't make out anything. It could be so dark that you see too much detail, and too much detail doesn't lend itself to seeing the figures. And even I have the moon as the screensaver on my iPad, and I don't see any shapes in that because it's too detailed. It's like we have to see the moon with our eyes on like a night when we're out walking around, and then our imagination takes over and then we can see these shapes. But you can use a telescope. You can even use just a pair of binoculars to kind of get maybe a little better glimpse of the moon on the full moon nights. Here's the other thing, that I have to wear glasses as readers, but I also need glasses as corrective for distance. So essentially, listeners, I need bifocals. But I generally don't wear my distance glasses around during the day because I can see okay. I usually just wear them when I'm driving. But if I wear my glasses when I'm looking at the moon at night, it's amazing. I can see the moon so much better when I wear my corrective lenses at night. And then you can kind of see some different shapes. It's just kind of something fun and interesting to think about culturally, and you know what we actually see when we look at the moon, and what tilt it's at and what direction it's in, and we see all these different shapes. But it has a name, lunar pareidolia.
And the full moon is, if we return back to the triple goddess metaphor, at the full moon, this is the mother archetype. And what we're doing kind of during the full moon, in terms of our plant analogy, is we're trimming and we're pruning. We begin to acknowledge what's working, what's not working. We start to let that go and retain what's serving us. And also, divination practices are really supported during the energy of the full moon because it is said that our intuition is amplified during this time. Maybe more can be illuminated because of all the brightness from the full moon.
I heard a lecturer talk about the reflective qualities of the full moon, and they said, whatever you are, you'll become more of during the full moon. So if you're very meditative, you'll get more meditative. If you're very distracted, you'll get more distracted. It just kind of, it can be used just to amplify everything. And that's powerful, powerful source. Full moons to me are, I don't I don't think it'll ever not be magic, no matter how old I get or how
Mm-hmm.
busy I get or whatever. I'll always stop and look at the full moon. Which brings us to the next phase, the waning gibbous. Now we're moving through the waning phases. Waning comes from an Old English word, wanian, meaning to decrease or diminish. What will begin to happen now that the moon is moving now towards the west, it is past the center point and now it's moving around the other side of the earth, that the left side of the moon is now illuminated. The illuminated side of the moon, the left side, has more dark Maria in it. Now that we're on the left side of the moon, generally the left side of the body is the yin decreasing, waning side of the body as well. You can see how beautifully the moon or we reflect the moon's energy, or the moon reflects our energy, with the left and the right sides being illuminated in these two phases.
I also heard this phase, waning gibbous, called the disseminating phase. We're at 225 degrees through 270 degrees. And because now we're moving into more of a yin energy, there's a sense of maturity. Like we can take an exhale and we can begin to let the energy settle down. And disseminating, we're in the disseminating phase. So this word means spreading, sharing, dispersing, circulating, and propagating, which is perfect for the plant metaphor that I've been using. But there's this idea that during this phase, we're sharing the lessons that we've learned, we are spreading or maybe showing others the newfound information or knowledge that we've gained. And we're also using the lessons and the wisdom to refine our own process based on the experience we just had in the first half of the moon cycle. And again, the energy during this phase is shifting from yang to yin. There's still some action and doing in this phase, but it's different. It's becoming less about action, and sort of we get this energy of reflection starting to come in. as the moon begins to wane.
Now we're in the third quarter, or waning half moon, where the whole other half of half, where the other half of the moon is illuminated. The left half is illuminated. And it is a marking where the rotation or the orbit of the moon around the earth is, that one final quarter is left before the moon makes it back to the meeting spot, back to the spot where it started. Depending on where you are on the planet, the rising and setting times get to be very outside of what a human who has like a job and who wakes up in the morning and goes to bed at night. The moon's rising and setting times are very different at this point, as it's coming around the side and it's getting closer to the sun. And I have thought, or I've seen, that I often see this moon during the daytime, that I'll see the waning moon, because where I live in the United States, and depending on the time of the year, whether it's the summer or whether it's the winter, that sometimes you'll see more moon phases during the daytime than you'll see them at the nighttime, because of the rising and setting times as the moon is getting closer to the sun. So look up in the sky during the daytime. That moon could be right there.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because the energy of this moon is more yin, just more and more yin. So we're getting more still, more quiet, more inward focused. It's the phase associated with recalibrating and listening to our inner knowing for an answer to the question, what's next? And to hear that answer, we often need quiet and solitude. We're further integrating what we've learned and perhaps reconciling what we thought would happen and what did happen. And this phase has the potential to feel a little tense, or like energies are conflicting. This might feel like trying to listen to your intuition, but having the noise of what you should be doing in your mind. It could also show up as like a willingness to pivot. So as you're reconciling all these things and you're integrating everything, you might realize you need to change something or pivot in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And there could be resistance during this phase of the moon that feels like tension or conflict. And there's also a theme of completion and cleansing, in the sense that we're allowing the canvas to become blank again. So sort of like letting the phase complete, because we're approaching the new moon where we begin again. So you're letting the canvas clear itself so you can begin again. And I found a really cool moon phase calculator. It will tell you your moon phase degree when you were born.
Oh.
I always thought I was born during the next phase, the waning crescent. But really, I was born when the moon was at 282 degrees, which falls during the third quarter phase between 270 and 315 degrees. And you can look this up on astro-seek.com. And I found a really cool article on moon phase personalities from astrocal.co.uk. And this article said, for your development, it will be helpful if you actively study a tried and true curriculum for exploring the dark. If you were to study astrology, these pathways can give you a language to understand the unfolding of your story and bring what is in the dark of the unconscious to the light of understanding. And this article said periods of solitude will bring peace and contentment. So any other third quarter phasers out there, we definitely need our solitude and our quiet and ways to kind of understand, I think, the darkness that we were born during. So that was just fun to find
Wow.
that and read a little bit more, but you can get that specific with your
Mm-hmm.
birthplace and time and find that degree, which was fun.
Yeah, the one of the few uses of the internet for good, not evil, that we have such detailed information at our fingertips that you can look up that stuff. That is fascinating. I want to kind of look around my date and time of birth again and see if I can get a little more insight now that we've done this research on the moon phases. Back into the crescent phase, the waning crescent, my favorite crescent shaped moon. And this is called the balsamic moon, which I cannot say without thinking about balsamic vinegar. And I needed to unhook that in my brain. Balsamic derives from the ancient Greek work balsamon, which means soothing or healing, and it's the root word of the word balm. That was that's what I needed. I needed to hear that so I would unhook it from the food from the vinegar. Balsamic, the final phase of the lunar cycle before the new moon, and it is healing and soothing and like a balm for um I guess our
For our soul.
maybe, right?
I found that in addition to waning crescent and balsamic, this is also called the dark moon phase.
I like that.
315 through 360 degrees, aka the 0 degree meeting point with the sun. The triple goddess is now in her crone phase, and we are really releasing, clearing, preparing for new growth, and getting ready to start the cycle over. So we've been working towards this. We've been letting the canvas clear away. And this is that final letting go, that final clearing, becoming super still and quiet and letting everything sort of go back to a blank starting
Mm.
point. It's the energy of the phrase still waters run deep. And it might seem like nothing's happening, but this is a very fertile time. And it's a good time for meditative practices, self reflection, contemplation, introspection, processing, and any practice that feels restorative and nourishing to you that will take care of like the fertile soil of your connection to. We just did the 7 spiritual laws of success, so that collective unconscious, the
Mhm.
unmanifest, um, the the pure potential. So that's kind of what we're dipping into
So it is a
in this
balm for
phase.
your soul. It is a balm for your soul.
Yeah. So those are the 8 phases.
Mhm. I have one last one last little note for you. If you were standing on the moon, you'd be watching the earth phases, and those phases would be 180 degrees reverse because you're on the moon looking at the earth, not the earth looking at the moon. It's all math. It's all shapes and geometry and math. I love it.
Wow.
So it's sort of like if you were in the southern hemisphere, you'd be looking at the left side being the
Yeah.
waxing. So it's like those things, it's like it makes sense once you see it, but it is so amazing to kind of do that mind flex to kind of think
Mm-hmm.
outside
Yeah.
our area. So I had a blast. I'm so glad we did this. I learned so much. I mean, I knew a bit, but I didn't know as much as I know now. I'm so happy we broke these down like this.
And I have a few notes on the moon cycle and periods.
Well, you can't, it's like the moon phases. You can't talk about that without some kind of talk about cycles.
Exactly. So, according to Healthline, a white moon cycle is a person who begins their period with the new moon.
Mm.
It is said that this type of cycle occurs when a menstruating person is most fertile or ready to be a parent, and it brings out a reflective quality. A red moon cycle is menstruating on the full moon, and this is associated with embracing your passionate, outgoing, and sexual side. A pink moon cycle is a time of transition, and it's a really kind of interesting opposition because the menses begins on the waxing moon. So it's this yang lunar energy with the
Mm-hmm.
waxing moon, but personally, your experience is more yin. You feel more withdrawn.
You're releasing,
And
you're letting go.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sort of this opposition going on. And I was doing some further reading because this is where I am personally right now. And I found a little bit that said, you might be surprised by what aligns when you stop trying to sync the way other people do. And I found that to be really insightful and very applicable just to my life the last couple of months. You know, I've been on this health journey during the springtime. So there's this conflict between the seasonal yang energy and my personal yin withdrawing. And so that was just really neat that it was also part of this pink moon cycle that
How
I'm
about that?
that I'm synced up with. And then a purple moon cycle is when menses begins on the waning moon, and it's associated with healing and I think that soul balm
There
energy
we
that
go.
we
There we
talked
go.
about. And the last little bit I have is thinking about the moon phases and their relationship to zodiac signs.
Okay.
The moon spends approximately 2.5 days in each zodiac sign per quote unquote month or lunar cycle.
Yeah, because it travels through the
Yeah,
sky.
yeah. So the day before this episode is released on June 26th, we have the new moon in Cancer on June 25th. So from that point, that start of the lunar cycle, we have the waxing crescent from June 26th through the 30th, and the moon will travel through the signs of Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. So you can think about the energies and the qualities of those zodiac signs and pair it with the waxing crescent
Mm-hmm.
energy of growing, expanding. So those zodiac signs have like that yang energy assisting them. And then the first quarter moon will be July 2nd in Libra. Our waxing gibbous, our pinnacle yang, will be July 3rd through the 8th in the signs of Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Capricorn. And then our full moon is July 10th in Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
And then our yin phases, July 11th through the 16th, Aquarius, Pisces, and Aries. The last quarter moon, July 17th, will be in the sign of Taurus. Our waning crescent, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo, July 18th through the 23rd. And then we'll have our new moon, which starts the cycle all over again, July 24th in Leo. So I was just thinking about how, we have the hero's journey of the sun moving through the zodiac
Mm-hmm.
signs over the course of a year. But then the moon does it every month. And then each new moon kicks off a new cycle in a different sign. So we have these 12 mini heroes journeys
Mm-hmm.
each month, and the energies that assist the zodiac sign's expression changes because of the phases of the moon. So you could go really, really deep.
Yeah. Well, that is fascinating. And if we weren't tied to this made up calendar where, the dates are always going to move around because we're trying to put this modern calendar on this ancient natural workings, that if we were just using the moon to tell us the month, we would know exactly what day it was in relationship to like the beginning of Cancer season. How many days to the full moon? How many days to here? How many days before we come into the next cycle?
Mm-hmm. And we just talked about Cancer and all of the attributes of that sign. And within the span of a month, we're going to experience Cancer in a waxing crescent around June 26th, 20. And then around July 21st, we're going to experience Cancer in a waning
Mm-hmm.
crescent moon. So it's like micro
Yeah.
astrology or something like that. This is like a day to day change. And it might be fun for a month to
Yeah.
track it that closely and just kind of write your own little themes for the day. A waning crescent in Cancer might feel like you want to take bubble baths and be totally still and meditate, for example. Whereas during the waxing crescent, you might want to get out all your tarot cards. I don't know, but that is all I have on the phases of the moon.
Oh my gosh, my brain is so full. That was so good. I'm so glad we did that. I needed it. I needed that. Um, are you ready for the message from the universe?
Yes.
I've got two cards today, two. So pick A or B. Card A is the star, hope, renewal. This card is associated with Aquarius. It is a moonless night. Iridescent starlight cascades across the sky, and you find yourself intoxicated by the scent of night blooming jasmine. You walk along, skipping from one shadow to the next, when you spy a soft glow ahead of you. You walk closer to find a luminous font of energy, as fluid as a ghostly specter, reclining with her face tilted back towards the heavens. It feels as if your hand might pass right through her if you reached out to touch her. She pours celestial fluid from a jug across her fingertips. Meet the star. The star card is healing and quietude, following the devil and towers mayhem and destruction. All psychic and traumatic energy is released. Her energy is absorbed into you. Belly butterflies tickle your stomach with flutters of excitement as the star siphons energy from the firmament. Plaguing questions are answered, physical pain departs, optimism fills you like a helium balloon. The star's secret is the loss of self consciousness. The ego has been tucked away. Fear has been placed in check. There is no blockage between the lower and the higher self as energy moves freely. It is the place of artist and muse, inspiration and illumination. The star is the open channel. The communion of this card marks the nature of artist and muse. Inspiration flows as the channel opens. The star, in many ways, is divinity manifest on earth. She is glimpsed, seen, and felt in transcendent moments. The star is the unfolding imagination. The snowy peacock symbolizes energetic power, hypnotic strength, and manifested destiny. The waters are the essence of the soul. It is cosmic unity, and all fantasies come through. Upright message, inspiration, healing, calm after the storm, clarity, flow, transcendence, and peace. Reversed message, shallow fears, blockage, feeling cut off, clinging to the past to avoid moving forward. To write the reversal, ask, what can I accept? That was the star. Card B is the Four of Swords. Recuperation, rest. This is Jupiter in Libra. A woman thick with insomnia has come to the witch's garden for a sleeping spell. Lavender and valerian root lull her to sleep. Her raging thoughts cease and her mind rejuvenates. She and a garden cat rest in a sweet ball of warmth inside an ancient structure that has fallen into exquisite decay. Perfect slumber is evoked in the Four of Swords. It is the card of a peaceful mind completely at rest. The number 4 connects this card with the stability of thought in every way. A sense of peace has been cultivated. You trust what you know. Thoughts, ideas, and stories do not run wild. Ideas are considered and released. New thoughts are observed without becoming entangled in the ego. New and interesting ideas arise. 2 swords up and 2 swords down show the vulnerability as well as the adaptability to protect the life, to protect the self if need be. The secret of the Four of Swords is the importance of self-care, for only healthy witches cast effective spells. It is love and protection extending to the realm of mind and thought. Upright message, stable thoughts, pleasure in decisions, resting well, assured mind, body, and spirit. A pause providing room to imagine and contemplate well into the future. A well-sent message, restful nights, restoration of mind, body, and soul. Reverse message, a mind in utter disarray, not trusting what is imagined or seen in the mind's eye. To write the reversal, ask, how can I remove mental distractions?
Honestly, that second card seems like it could also be Gemini in the waning crescent phase.
I love it. Those cards match kind of what we're talking here with the moon
Yeah,
cycles. Um,
that deep rest and giving our minds a break during the waning crescent. That's what I heard from that second card.
yes, these cards were meant for us today and for us on the day that you listen to this podcast, and any other day or any other time that you listen to this, those cards were meant for you.
Yes.
Remember that. Thank you, universe. Oh, I had so much fun, Nicole. This was timely topic for me.
Thank you, listeners. And we will be back next week. And until then, take care of each other. We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Radical. The Radical is written and produced by Nicole and Christina.
Listener questions can be emailed to us at theradicalpodnc@gmail.com.
Our Instagram is The Radical Pod.
Music by Van Horton. His Instagram is Van Horton Music.